Welcome to episode 4 of Unibet Presents The Queensberry Rules. I'm Adam Catterall, he's Nick Peet, and this is the big review of Dubois versus Joyce. An epic night at Church House in Westminster. I'm sure you'll agree, with lots of talking points coming off the back of it. But first of all, let's go to the positive, shall we? Joyce is the British, Commonwealth and European Heavyweight champion. A sensational performance from him. You're going to hear from him in a minute because he's just been speaking backstage with Dev. But Nick, on the performance itself, nothing fazed him throughout the course of the week. He lost his trainer in Ismail Salas with the COVID situation earlier on in the week. Steve Broughton stepped in. I know they've been working closely on previous fights, but I tell you something, that corner team and the performance of Joyce was absolutely top class.
It was sensational, wasn't it? He was absolutely brilliant for me from start to finish. The way he handled the week, the way he composed himself, the way he handled losing his head corner when the fight actually started. You know, his game plan from the very beginning was simple. It was back to basics. It was get back to your jab, the most important punch in all of boxing. And he just utilised it to offset Daniel from the very first round. The first round was just, he set his stall out from there. And he didn't really have to change his game plan from it. And listen, a lot of the rounds were close. Two of the judges actually had Dubois ahead by the 10th round, and it was a close fight. But for me, Joyce controlled it from that jab, from start to finish. He busted Daniel up with it. He dictated the pace with it. He kept offsetting him with it. I thought he was absolutely remarkable. Cool, calm, collected. He used every single second of those 35 years of experience. And at one stage in there, it was like David and Goliath. It was man against boy. It was novice against pro. I thought he was brilliant.
Well, let's hear from him, because Dev has been sticking his microphone in his face immediately after the fight. Here's Joe.
Joyce, all we kept hearing in the build-up to this fight was Dubois early or Joyce late. It was Joyce late.
Yeah, it was Joyce late. Just had to be careful in there because he was throwing some big shots. So I didn't want to get in range and trade with him particularly. So I just kept it long with the jab, and the jab was landing every time. So I just kept at it and stayed disciplined and moved away from his power shots. I didn't really want to risk it coming in. So yeah, but respect to him. He did it. He did his best, and he's young. He could come again. I only started boxing at his age, so he's got plenty of time. And on to the next one.
Well, it looked like that was the key. It looked like the jab was the key. As soon as the fight started, you were banging his face with the jab. Have you changed it up a bit? Was it something you've been working on? Is that just amateur schooling?
Yeah, I've been working on the jab, different jabs. That was part of the game plan. There's some more variety I could have done, but it's not worth risking if what I'm doing is working. So I just kept at it and stay away from the power shots.
Did you feel you were ahead when the fight was stopped?
Yeah, I felt that I thought it was close, but I felt that I was ahead. And if it had gone longer, then that I would have got worse. And it's not really worth risking because I would have won anyway. The longer it went, the more I was going to start open him up and damage him more. So it's good that it was a wise move to stop right there.
Could you feel him tiring in the fight? Yeah,
he's a big, heavy man, and my work rate, I can feel that I can keep at them and put them under pressure. So, and I felt that he was kind of getting tired, and I was busting him up with a jab, so that kind of tires you out as well.
This fight was shown in over 100 countries. There must have been millions of people watching. What sort of impression have you left of the juggernaut tonight?
Yeah, hopefully I've left a good impression, and that lines me up nicely with a world title.
Is that what's next? Is that what's on your mind?
That's what I'm hoping for. So you guys can hook me up, can speak to Frank and the team, and get the fight made.
I'm sure Frank can hook you up. There's been a lot of talk about this WBO belt. Maybe it becomes vacant. You'll surely have a high ranking now. Usyk's there or thereabouts. It feels like there could be a big rematch ahead. You fought once before. Yeah, that'd be an amazing fight for the world title. Rematch from the WSB. Mate, it's amazing. And it's mad. There's a lot of Ukrainian fans in London, so hopefully when the crowds are back, then we can be an amazing showdown. What would be different about the Joyce that fights Usyk? Say you get that fight next. to the Joe Joyce that fought him in the World Boxing Series?
I'm a lot more experienced. I've had more than 10 years experience now, where before then I had only probably, I don't know, maybe like 3 to 5 years of experience. When he'd been boxing, he had like whatever, 300 plus fights, 350 fights, I think, amateur. So he was a lot better, just fresh off the Olympic Games, winning the gold medal. So I was, novice, and I hadn't really fought any southpaws. No, I mean, I didn't really spot. I don't think I did much southpaw sparring or any at all. So, especially now with my bigger experience, and I think it'll be a good fight, but a fight that I can win.
You look terrific tonight. Any message for Daniel Dubois, who's obviously, he's young, he's going to come again. What words of advice do you have to him?
Chin up and keep going. Go back in the gym. See to that eye. It's boxing. He's young. He started when I started boxing. I mean, he's the age that I started boxing, so there's plenty of time. There's, Tyson and Roy Jones fighting tonight, so he's definitely got plenty of time. I feel like I've still got more time. So, yeah, chin up.
Finally, if that Usyk fight comes anytime soon, what sort of message have you got for Alexander Usyk? Don't just tell me, Joe. Tell him.
Usyk, I'm ready. I'm coming, Usyk. I'm coming. I'm ready for you, Usyk.
There you go. It's world titles next for Joe Joyce. Usyk. Gotta love a little bit of that. And it's right, it rekindles an old rivalry. We know that these guys have gone at it previously. Now in the professional game, Usyk's done what he's done in the cruiserweight division. He's made the jump up to heavyweight. He's in that wonderful position with the WBO. There's going to be a lot of lobbying now, isn't there? Between Frank, Sam Jones, Joe Joyce, the WBO. Come on, Usyk. Push the AJ thing. Push the AJ thing. Because us as fans, we all want to see Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. I don't think we're really that bothered whether it's for the Undisputed Championship of the world. I don't think it matters if the WBO belt is not on the line for that. I know it's wonderful for the fighters to claim that they're the Undisputed Champion of the world, but for us as fans, we just want to see the fight. If that means politically that the WBO belt is not involved in that fight, then I'm cool with that. Especially if it means Joe Joyce getting a shot at the world title against Alexander Usyk.
100%, and that's the only way it can go as well, of course. If Usyk isn't going to be the next guy to fight Anthony Joshua, post-Pulev, of course, then fingers crossed, we all want it to be Tyson Fury. We don't want it to be Alexander Usyk. And if that means the WBO belt gets relinquished, then so be it. Or even if they keep the WBO belt on the line for the first fight, we know there's definitely going to be at least 2 fights between AJ and Fury. And then they strip him after the first fight, whoever the champion may be. I'm cool with it. But I'm also absolutely on board now that Joe Joyce deserves his title shot. Usyk has waited patiently as well. I think Usyk versus Joyce, the narrative, the former amateur rivalry, everything else, it makes absolute sense. And Joe Joyce is ready, man. He can't wait any longer. 35 years of age. He's just old man Daniel Dubois. He's just shown the world that he is ready and capable. And even though he's only had a dozen fights as a pro, he is absolutely ready for that heavyweight title shot. And hopefully it comes for him in the first part or latter part of 2021.
Let's talk Daniel Dubois, 23 years of age, didn't go his way, even though the bookies had him the favourite coming into this fight. And the way that the fight ended, there's obviously going to be criticism, especially when it comes to social media. We're living in this brutal world right now where everybody loves to cast a little bit of judgment. But I think in the immediate aftermath of this fight, said on social media, listen, don't be too harsh on this young man. He is a young man. He does shelter himself away from what you would class as the real world. He's still got a lot of growing, not just physically, but most certainly emotionally. And now, the interesting thing is what happens next. How does he bounce back? It's easy to look at it and say, he quit. And that word comes with a lot of negative connotations. But what happens next is very, very important. Can the phoenix rise from the flames? The journey is most certainly not over. He's got to lick his wounds. He's got to dust himself off. He's been given a gut check, and I'm sure now it's hurting him this week. He'll get back in the gym. He'll get back to work. But the road back, Nick, is going to be long. Let's not rush him back in. We've got at least 2 years before we start talking about Daniel Dubois back at the level that he was at on Saturday night.
Yeah, I never quite understood the rhetoric behind Dubois, and I know his dad was really pushing it as much as anybody else about him getting to become heavyweight champion of the world inside his 22nd birthday or whatever it was, and obviously that's been delayed because of the pandemic, and it's delayed further now because of this loss. But I never understood the rush. He didn't have the senior amateur experience that a lot of these guys have. He's only had 15 fights, 16 now as a pro. He's got a lot to learn in this business. And listen, he's an incredible athlete and he's got all the fundamentals required to become a great champion. What he lacks is experience. What he lacks is the one thing that Joe Joyce held over him like a mighty sword at the weekend. Joe Joyce has just been there, done it, wore the t-shirt. He knew how to offset a big puncher. He knew how to unsettle Daniel Dubois. I think Daniel put so much pressure on himself to, as he said, change his life on Saturday night that he played into Joe Joyce's hands. And yes, listen, the fight was close. I had it very close going into that 10th round, 1 or 2 rounds either way. You could argue, well, the judges did. 2 of the judges had Daniel winning, had he managed to be able to stay on his feet for those last couple of rounds. But for me, Joe Joyce dictated the pace of that fight. Joe Joyce was the fresher fighter. You could see he was going to win the next couple of rounds. Obviously, Daniel suffered a terrible injury and he made the decision to pull himself out of that fight. Now, that's a decision that Daniel first has to live with. He has to learn to live with the fact that he pulled himself out of a fight when he was ahead on 2 judges' scorecards. I think that's probably the reason why his corner never pulled him out. But Daniel himself made the decision not to fight on. He's got to live with that. He's got to lay that to rest. He's got to put it to one side and he's got to go and do the business and do the work and put the hours in and get the sparring back and put himself back on the map. And it may take 2 years, it may take 3 years, it may take 5 years. But you know what? At 23 years of age, he's probably not going to peak in heavyweight terms until his very late 20s anyway, early 30s. Mike Tyson was a freak. Don't ever compare yourself to Mike Tyson. Not when you're the size of Daniel Dubois. He's a monster heavyweight. We'll see the best of Daniel Dubois in his late 20s. And you know what? This decision for him to pull himself out with what we know now as a fractured orbital bone may well have saved his career. It may well have got worse. Joe Joyce wasn't missing with that jab. It may well have damaged his eye to a point where it would never have recovered again. So in pulling himself out, perhaps Daniel's even saved his career. So right now, what he needs is an arm around him. He needs the support of the people around him. But more than anything, I just think Daniel Dubois needs to go away and live a little bit and have a break from boxing. This is all he's ever done and all he's ever known. Go and enjoy your life. Go and, find a country in the world that you can actually visit, like Australia or something, and go and have a little travel around and just experience life a little bit, I think that's what he needs. He needs that little bit more life experience, that little bit more maturity. And then he can bring that in and bring that emotional strength to the ring to add to this incredible athletic physique that he's got. One day he will get there. I truly believe one day Daniel Dubois will become heavyweight champion of the world. But this is the very first fork in the road. He can go left or he can go right. He can have the blue pill or he can have the red pill. Whichever one he chooses will map out which way his career goes.
One thing is for certain. More fights like this, please, Frank. More high risk, more high reward. That's exactly what we want. I know we're getting another cracker in the week coming up between Anthony Yard and Lyndon Arthur, but this is what we should all be applauding. Putting your stones on the line and seeing who's got it. Congratulations, Joe Joyce, getting the job done and becoming the British, Commonwealth and European champion. And we look forward to documenting what comes next. Is it Usyk? Is it a world title fight? Is it another cracker in an entertaining venue like we saw at the weekend? Who knows, but it's going to be exciting. Joe Joyce was most certainly the performance of the night, but very, very close, Nick. Hamza Sheeraz. A lot of fight fans know about him and they know about his talent coming through. But I think on a card like at the weekend, where it's not on pay-per-view, a lot of fight fans from the world of sport and football can come in and they can enjoy a big heavyweight clash like we gave them. But on the undercard, there's an opportunity for fighters there to step up and make a name for themselves. There'll be a lot of people walking away going, I like that Hamza Sheeraz. That kid can do a bit. Very talented lad. Got a finish as well. the future is extremely exciting for him.
Yeah, I think he's a wonderful talent, you know, and it was great to see the BT analyst team, Frampton and David Hay, highlighting as much at the weekend as well, because I was mesmerised by him at times. He's got so much in his locker, a bit like Callum Smith in terms of the way, for a big guy, the way he fights inside is absolutely brilliant. Loves flip winging in, nose hooks, a real whip to them, you know. I'm a huge fan of his, huge fan. Can't wait to see him out again. This was another good. Listen, we're in a lockdown, so you've got to take the opponents as you can get them. I almost stripped off on Friday actually at the weigh-ins when he announced Nicholas Peety to the scales. I almost stripped down to me boxers. I would never have made that weight division, by the way. But I thought I was getting the call up. But I thought he was brilliant, Sheeraz, and I can't wait to see him again. His development, the way he's being moved along. 2021, if we can get back to some normality, if we can get this kid busy, he's a real threat, man. He's a real threat. And you will see him get better as he moves through the level of opponents as well.
One of the good things about him, as well as obviously being great at fighting, is that he's good at talking. Dev caught up with him backstage straight after the fight.
Hamza Sheeraz, you got him out of there in the end. Happy?
Yeah, no, good. It was a decent performance. I won't say it was one of my best, but it was a good, decent performance. I knew he was going to come to win. Listen, the experience he's got, fighting 12 round, 10 rounders, he wasn't no mug. I knew that. I knew I wasn't going to blow him out early, but I'm glad I got him out there in the end.
But that's like your 6th stoppage in a row. Yeah. Are you a puncher?
I don't know, you told me, Dev. I think my record's suggesting that now, isn't it? But listen, we'll just see what future tells. That was a good fight, but do you know what I mean? I want to step up now. So whoever's next, get ready.
What was the key to you winning that fight then? As you said, this guy's no mug. He's beaten Jack Colquhoun. He took his O. How did you do it?
In the first round, I hurt him with a body shot. I rushed my work a little bit, but then I knew he was seasoned. I could tell by the way what he was doing, nutting me with his head. Buying time, he was smart. So I thought, listen, I'm going to have to break him down a bit and take him out of there. And that's what I've done. I just listened to Will and Kev, and the hard work paid off.
First thing you said to me was, oh, that was good to get the rounds in, sort 100%. Of thing. So you prefer you did it in the 10th round right at the end rather than getting him out in 2? Yeah,
no, 100%. Listen, because that's another question gone now, isn't it? Another one ticked off the box. You can do 10 rounds. So yeah, well, not the full 10 rounds, but just under the 10 rounds. But listen, it was a decent performance. I'll look back on it, see how I did, and just take the weaknesses out and see what I can work on rather than the positives so much.
Kevin Mitchell now as well. You've got a new team around you. Are you feeling differences in yourself as a fighter?
Yeah, no, 100%. Listen, Kev told me, listen, these fighters now, you're getting up a level. He goes, I'm going to survive a lot longer. He goes, there'll be a lot more game as well. So listen, I weren't clueless going into it. I knew what to expect. But yeah, I just like to thank my whole team, Uncle Gogs, everyone, for the hard work we put in. It's been a hard camp. It's been a good camp though. And on to the next.
Big show to be a part of, and you were chief support to Daniel Dubois against Joyce. What sort of statement do you think you sent out with a stoppage win like that?
I don't know. I have to look back on social media and see what everyone's saying. Hopefully good things, but listen, I'll just look on the negatives of that performance and work on that, like changing up the gears a bit more, and see, like I said, see what's next. I don't want to dwell on it too much. It was a decent performance. I got the knockout victory, and yeah, man, good happy days.
It sounds like Troy Williamson is, if not next, very soon. Yeah. You up for that fight?
That was meant to be tonight, wasn't it? That fight was meant to be tonight. Listen, hopefully he gets better from his injury and we can get that fight on. I'm sick of talking about it now. It's annoying me, if anything. Listen, it was meant to get in. I signed the contract. He signed the contract and I just had enough of talking about it. Now let's get in there and do the business.
Well, I'm going to ask you one question which I hope doesn't annoy you. If that was Troy Williamson in there with you tonight, what would have happened if Troy was in there with you tonight?
Listen, I respect him as a fighter. I don't want to call out, say what I do to him. But listen, if we get that fight done, hopefully we can get it cracking on with. And we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Hamza and Steele, congratulations.
Cheers, Dev. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you.
Also on the card at the weekend, even though Nick will tell you otherwise, Jack Catterall is not my son, all right? But I might be claiming him as some type of distant family relative if he keeps putting in performances like this as he heads towards a world title shot next year. As you know, he steps aside from his WBO super lightweight mandatory to allow Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez to hopefully get it on to unify that division. Jack needs to keep busy. He's been out the ring for a long time, 12 months in total. He stepped in at the weekend and showed glimpses of the old Jack Catterall. A well-worthy fight this, Nick, at the weekend because he most certainly blew the rust off.
Yeah, he only needed to. You know, he was I think it was 12 months and 1 week since he'd last fought. That fight was over in the Middle East as well. It was 18 months since he'd last fought in the UK. And yes, he has taken step-aside money to allow that unification fight to happen. But you better believe that Jack Catterall's worked his socks off to get into that position with the WBO as the mandatory contender. He wants his world title shot, and he wants it as soon as possible. But blowing away who you are in a round or two would have been a bit of a disaster for me. And listen, we got 10 rounds. We got 10 rounds of Jack Catterall moving through the gears. A couple of knockdowns that in there as well. You know, he's not the biggest puncher in this weight division, but he's an incredible boxer. You know, he boxes so well off that back foot, but when he smells, you know, a finish, he can step in there and land big shots as well, Jack, as he proved here against Huya. It was a real good opponent for me. A guy that got a lot of experience, a former top-class amateur, Huya as well. I think he'd been to an Olympic Games. Obviously got a great chin, recovered well from that knockdown. I think it was in the 6th round. I thought it was a splendid performance from Jack. And if I'm Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis in the corner, driving back to Manchester after a fight, I'm delighted the fact that he got 10 busy rounds, because that's what he desperately needed after 12 months out of the ring. Now he sits back, he gets to chill, he gets to hopefully be ringside when Taylor and Ramirez put it all on the line, and then you're the guy fighting to get in the ring afterwards, to get in front of the victor, to make that fight happen. Of course, we want it to be Josh Taylor. We want it to be a Battle of Britain for all the belts. But Jack Catterall is very keenly placed right now, and them 10 rounds will do him a huge world of good. And maybe even Frank can get him out again early in the new year as well, prior to that Taylor Ramirez fight. Just another one just to blow the cobwebs off, because he needs to stay sharp. He needs to be ready, because when the opportunity comes for all them belts, you want Jack Catterall to be firing on all cylinders.
Absolutely. Notable wins for David Adeleye and Jack Massey. Good performance from him. And that kind of leads us on nicely to what's coming next week. I know I mentioned it a moment or two ago, but Lyndon Arthur challenging Anthony Yarde. Real high risk, high reward on this particular fight, because these lads are quite nicely placed with the WBO in that light heavyweight division. We know that that vacant title has now been called. Smith Jr. is going to be fighting for it against Vlasov. The winner of that becomes champion, and I've no doubt the winner of this weekend will have one eye on that, because they'll, especially from Anthony Yarde's point of view, want to be getting back into world title contention. But from Lyndon Arthur's point of view, he can leapfrog Anthony and maybe be fighting for a world title in 2021.
Yeah, listen, I've got to be honest, I'm quite surprised this fight's happening. You know, if I'm Anthony Yarde, if I'm Team Yarde, they're in pole position to fight for the winner of that WBO belt. You know, they're top of the list, and they could easily be going through anyone that's ranked in the top 50 with the WBO, bring them in, blow them away. You're keenly placed then, you call out the winner of that fight, that vacant title belt, and you move straight into it. To be taking on Lyndon Arthur, an undefeated fighter with huge potential, massive aspirations of his own, a current Commonwealth champion, I think he is. I think this is a huge risk for Anthony Yarde, and for that I can only applaud Yarde, and obviously Arthur's going to take the fight, and Frank as well, for putting this thing on, because, as you say, huge risk, high reward for Lyndon Arthur. He could jump ahead of Anthony Yarde and become in pole position for this WBO title. So feel a little bit blessed. Back to back, two absolutely domestic crackers. Can't wait for it.
Now, should be a cracker. Goes down on BT Sport this weekend, so make sure you come and join us for it. Just a note, you saw a little bit of Joyce earlier on. You saw a little bit of Hamza Sheeraz. All the other fighters were interviewed backstage by Dev, all available now on the Queensberry YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up with Jack Catterall, David Adeleye, Jack Massey, all those guys, it's all on there now for you to go and have a little bit of a look in full. Hopefully you've enjoyed our Unibet Presents the Queensberry Rules series. We had a big preview week for you last week, some fantastic conversations building up to a monster fight at Church House, and obviously this review show as well, just picking the bones out of a really, really good night for Joyce. Onwards and upwards for the Juggernaut. We'll catch you next time.